The wind howled through the broken Ferris wheel. It sang a lonely song. The Ferris wheel stood in the middle of the abandoned circus. Weeds grew around its rusted legs. The circus was on the edge of town. Nobody dared to go near it. The big top was torn in many places. It looked like a mouth open in a silent scream. Faded posters clung to the crooked booths. Pictures of clowns and elephants were bleached by the sun. The circus had been quiet for years, but some secrets refused to stay buried.
Are you sure about this?
Don't be scared.
Meg whispered. Her breath made a cloud in the cold air. Josh said, puffing out his chest. He wasn't as brave as he pretended. They all felt the chill. The circus seemed to watch them. The group shuffled forward. They were best friends, daring each other to do stupid things. This felt different. This felt dangerous.
Let's stick together,
Ben said, his voice shaking a little. He led the way towards the big top. The circus was calling to them. The air inside the tent was heavy and still. It smelled like dust and decay. Light filtered through the holes in the tent. It made strange shapes on the dirt floor. The friends walked slowly. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. They passed cages that might have held lions. They saw a trapeze hanging limply from the ceiling. Each shadow seemed to move. Every rustle of wind sounded like a whisper.
This place is creepy,
Erin said, her voice barely above a whisper. They walked deeper into the heart of the circus. They walked towards the darkness that seemed to be waiting for them. The posters were everywhere. They showed a clown with a wide, painted smile. The clown's name was Grin. His eyes seemed to follow them.
Did you hear that?
Meg thought she heard laughter. It was faint, but it sent chills down her spine.
Hear what?
Josh asked, trying to sound brave, but he looked around nervously. They kept walking, the laughter growing louder. It was no longer faint, it was close, it was cold, and it was hungry. They rounded a corner and stopped. Before them was a large, ornate mirror. It was cracked in several places, but the reflection was clear, too clear.
"Welcome to my circus," Grin rasped, his voice like dry leaves. "Let's play a game. Find your deepest fear, and you might just escape." He let out a chilling cackle. The game had begun.
The friends stared at the mirror. Their reflections were gone. It was as if the mirror had swallowed their images, leaving behind an eerie void. In their place were their deepest fears. The mirror seemed to know their darkest secrets, projecting them with a cruel clarity. Meg saw a giant spider, its hairy legs reaching for her. She could almost feel the prickly hairs brushing against her skin, sending shivers down her spine. Ben saw a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. His heart pounded. The figure seemed to move closer with every beat, its eyes burning into his soul.
What's happening? Maria cried, her voice filled with terror. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead as panic set in. She saw her worst nightmare reflected back at her. It was a twisted version of herself, eyes hollow and lifeless, a haunting reminder of her deepest insecurities.
Josh didn't say anything. He trembled as he stared at the mirror. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the horror unfolding before him. He was already trapped in his own personal hell. Grin's laughter echoed around them, a sinister sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The mirror started to glow. It pulsed with an eerie green light. The light seemed to throb in time with their racing hearts, casting an unearthly glow on their terrified faces. The air crackled with energy. They were being pulled into the mirror. It felt like an invisible force was dragging them towards the glowing surface, their screams swallowed by the oppressive silence.
Meg screamed as the spider lunged at her. She felt its hairy legs wrap around her. She struggled to breathe, but it was no use. She was trapped.
Ben stumbled back from the shadowy figure. Its red eyes seemed to burn into his soul. He turned to run, but it was too late. The darkness swallowed him whole.
Erin cried out for help as her nightmare came to life, but no one could hear her.
The mirror was pulling them all into a world of fear. The circus seemed to awaken around them. The carousel creaked, its wooden horses spinning aimlessly. The calliope played a haunting tune. But it wasn't music, it was the sound of their nightmares. The shadows in the tent seemed to writhe and twist, taking on menacing forms. The laughter was everywhere now, surrounding them, taunting them. They were trapped in a waking nightmare. They ran through the maze of tents and rides, desperate to escape. The air was thick with the scent of popcorn and the distant laughter of clowns. But it all felt sinister now. The once joyful carnival had transformed into a nightmarish trap. But the circus had become a labyrinth. The bright lights and colourful banners only added to the confusion, making it impossible to find a way out. Every turn led to another dead end, another horrifying vision, another wave of despair. The walls seemed to close in, and the laughter turned into haunting echoes that mocked their every move.
Meg stumbled through a hall of distorted mirrors. The reflections twisted and turned, creating grotesque versions of herself that seemed to reach out and grab her. Each one showed a new and terrifying version of herself. Her face morphed into monstrous shapes, her eyes filled with fear and madness. She couldn't tell which one was real. The mirrors played tricks on her mind, making her question her own sanity. She was losing her mind. The more she tried to find an exit, the deeper she seemed to fall into the abyss of her own fears.
Ben found himself in the hall of mirrors, each one reflecting his deepest insecurities and failures. The mirrors showed him as a child, scared and alone, and as an adult, burdened by regret. He cowered, unable to face the horrifying truth. The reflection seemed to whisper his darkest secrets, taunting him with his own inadequacies. His fear was consuming him. The walls of mirrors closed in, and he felt as if he was being suffocated by his own failures.
Erin, lost in a maze of shadows, felt a cold hand close around her wrist. The touch was icy and sent shivers down her spine. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. The shadows seemed to come alive, wrapping around her and pulling her deeper into the void. She was dragged away, her screams echoing into the night. The darkness consumed her, and the carnival's sinister laughter echoed in the distance, a reminder that there was no escape.
The laughter faded. The shadows retreated. The circus fell silent. The once vibrant and bustling arena, filled with joyous cries and dazzling lights, now lay in eerie stillness. The echoes of past performances seemed to linger in the air, a haunting reminder of what once was.
Grin stood alone in the center ring, the twisted mirror shimmering behind him. The mirror, a grotesque reflection of reality, twisted and contorted the images it captured, making everything appear more sinister. Grin's eyes, dark and hollow, scanned the empty seats, as if searching for something or someone. His smile seemed wider than ever. It was a smile that held no joy, only a chilling sense of triumph. The corners of his mouth stretched unnaturally, revealing rows of sharp, gleaming teeth. It was a smile that promised nightmares.
New posters appeared as if by magic. They were plastered all over the circus grounds, each one more disturbing than the last. The posters seemed to pulse with a life of their own, drawing the eye and holding it captive. They showed Meg trapped in a spider's web. Her face was a mask of terror, her eyes pleading for help that would never come. The web, thick and sticky, glistened in the dim light, a prison from which there was no escape. Ben, cowering in a corner, his eyes wide with terror, his body shook with fear, his mind unable to comprehend the horrors he had witnessed. The darkness seemed to close in around him, suffocating and relentless. And Erin, her face frozen in a silent scream. Her mouth was open in a cry that would never be heard, her eyes wide with unending fear. Grin had won. His twisted game had reached its horrifying conclusion. The circus was his once more. The empty seats and silent tents were a testament to his victory. The once lively and joyous place was now a realm of fear and despair, ruled by Grin's malevolent presence. And the friends would forever be a part of its chilling spectacle. Their souls, trapped within the circus, would be forced to relive their worst nightmares over and over again. They were now unwilling performers in Grin's eternal show. Their fears had become their reality. The line between nightmare and reality had blurred, leaving them in a perpetual state of terror. Every shadow, every sound was a reminder of their inescapable fate. The circus lights flickered and died. The once bright and colourful lights that had brought joy and wonder now cast long, eerie shadows before fading into darkness. Darkness swallowed the big top. The show was over. But for Grin and his captives, the nightmare had only just begun. The circus, now a place of eternal night, would forever be a monument to Grin's twisted triumph.